So you're out there throwing rocks at your boy's window. You want him to come out. What happens?
He don't come out. He hands me a blanket and a pillow. I'm like, I already know what it is. I ain't got to say what you want me to do with this. So I'm like, all right, baby, look. And I have a backpack on, so I put the pillow up into the blanket. And we had this bridge we used to skip school up. It's like with our road tracks. And we would walk the tracks a lot of times when we skip school. You know what I mean? Because it's off the main road. Cars coming by can't see us. Cops can't see us. Parents can't see it. So I go to this bridge. And crazy enough, I go up underneath there. And I get back up underneath beside the steel beam. Too young to get a motel room. The act of walking to where I need to get a motel room. I'm at this point now, I'm going to get picked up by the police because it's after that time of night. They're going to scoop me up. So I just got up underneath that bridge, I pulled that blanket closed, the wind is starting to hit. This is like September. It's not really cold yet, but the nights, the temperature starting to drop. And I remember I slept, and the following morning, the train comes by early, 5-something more. Train comes by, the wakes me up, I'm like, startled me. So I get my day going. I get up, I told you I took my backpack, I changed clothes, I take the backpack, I stash it, I stashed the blanket, I stashed the pillow. Did not sleep well and good. I didn't sleep good in all that night. Sitting like off, I was breaking my back. I go to the bus stop. All the other kids are just being kids going to school. I go to the bus stop and I'm figuring with them, and at this point, I'm not in school and I dropped out. And just like that, they got on the bus and they left. So I would wander around throughout the day. That's when the mischievousness really, like, idle hand, and they say idle hand is the devil's playtime or playground. It's a true state. Somebody that's out there that doesn't have anything, nowhere to go, it's a bad thing. So I would just spend my days breaking into houses, breaking into cars, looking for come-ups. Now the whole hustling thing it's questionable. Dudes don't want to really deal with somebody that at any given moment they feel like might run off. Now I'm starting to do bad because I have to, I'm having to, if I can get somebody to get a room, I got to pay for them. I'm not driving a car at the time. So that kind of slowed down, and it went from kind of, I was hustling to now I'm committing crime. Now I'm really out here. Don't have a home to go to. And from there, I'd already been in trouble in the past. I'd already done several detention stints, in and out the detention center for a variety of charges. And it wasn't like I don't want to get on here and the world think like I'm this white guy that proclaims to have just sold black in his life, because that's not the truth. The truth is that I would sell whatever it is people want, like whether it be Zans or X or powder or hard, or it could be shrooms, whatever was going around that people wanted. If I didn't have it, I'd go get it. But the becoming homeless at that age was terrible. Sleeping in laundromats. I remember the guy that they had a 24-hour laundromat, and behind those laundromats, inside the laundromats where the dryers are, there's usually a big space behind, so they can like get back there and serve stuff. And for like a couple of weeks, I had the stash in my bags behind these dryers, and I was sleeping back there. And then when nobody would come in and use the dryer, it would start to get cold. And then I remember I'd hear the door squeak. I'd look between sink machines, and I'd see somebody washing clothes, and I'm like, that's what's up. It's about to get warm again. And then the guy finds out I was staying in there. He kicks me out. And I would go through that process for a while of being homeless. And I got a homeboy, Mike Cream. Big shout out to Mikey. Big Mike Cream. I love you, Mikey. I went to his house one time, and it was just right before I turned 17. And his mother had a spare room. She kept catching me crashing on the couch and stuff. And she was, where are you staying? And you're kind of embarrassed, but at the same time, I know she's asking me this because there's possibly an opportunity for me to stay here. So I tell her, I'm like, nowhere really, like wherever I lay my head at is where I'm at. So she let me stay there for a little bit. And then right before I turned 18, there was these little just trash apartment out where we live called the Masonette, Strathmore Masonettes. And a friend of mine knew the girl that worked at the office. So I went in there at 17, filled out the paperwork. She didn't ask for no ID. So I changed my birth date by 1 year, making me 18. And just like that, it was like a one-bedroom efficiency. You walked in, you got the kitchen, the living room was all one room.
Yeah.
And then you walk through that, and it's a bedroom and a bathroom and clothes. So at that point there, boom, now I've got an apartment. I go get me a job working at a Chevron/Dunkin' Donuts, which was brilliant because I wasn't so much concerned with the gas station job. I was more concerned with the fact that everybody knew where to find me at. And I kind of used that, like, in a sense, as like my setup shop, like to post stuff. Like you would pull up and get 2 donuts, and I'd be like, all right, your total $63.95. You know what I mean? $3.95 for a donut, $60 for the other. Or I would leave stuff in the public bathroom outside, and you have to get the key from the guy inside the store to get it. So they would come in, and I'd be standing there talking to them at the register, and they'd slide me the money. I go, I'm like, I need the bathroom key. You're not giving the key. They'll look with towel holder on the wall with paper towels, go and get it. So we had the apartment for a while, but you already know it. Being 17 years old in an apartment, it's going to end real, real bad. All the homeboys, everybody from the neighborhood, everybody that's up to no good. It went from me being there to within the next week, it was about me and any of my own boys staying there with a couch and one bed. From there, it went bad, real bad. Audio equipment was a big thing at the time. And I got into, and I hated thieves. Let me make this clear. I don't agree with stealing, but I was that at one point. So we would go on these, it was like every other night, we would go on these boosting missions. This is back when the Rockford Falsky speakers were a big, big deal. And that old school, you're talking 97, 98, when dudes would really try to put on with their systems. So we would go out all night hitting cars, loading up on speaker boxes, amps, the Sony Exploding decks and the Super Tuner 3s. That became a big market, and then it always comes crashing down. There's a girl at my house one day, and apparently her brother's Jeep had been broken into, and she knew what his system looked like. And I've talked to this one girl, she brought her sister along, and I seen it, she kept like looking around, she's like, where do you get all this stuff? And I was like, I'll buy it from dudes and I'll resell it. Little for me to know that stuff sitting in the corner belonged to her brother. So she went and she called the police, and that would put them on to us. And at this time, in breaking in cars, you find all types. We had several handguns that we found in cars. There's been many nights at that time that I left my stuff in the car. You know what I mean? You leave out of the seat, lean on the door, stash beside the seat in the glove compartment. They hit the door, and I wasn't there. I was out and about. And that's when the minute phones had just come out. You're paying like all of this money for these track phone by the minute. And I get a call, and I answer the phone, and they're like, who's this? I'm like, you called me. Who's this? I just don't worry about who I am. I'm going to do this at your house. It's got your own boys laid down on the floor. What you going to do? Like, he was talking greasy to him. Told me I'll do this and do that. And I'm like, what? I'm thinking my door's been kicked in. But now I'm 18. Just turned 18. I'm thinking my door's been kicked in, and somebody's then got where they were hustling or whatever. And they're very cut on me. Went up in there, lay everybody down, clean shop. So the girl I'm with, I tell her, I go by my mom's house, I grab my gun, I said, take me to my house. Park me up front in the corner because you don't want to pull up in front of the apartment. Brother was there. And when I go to my mom's house, like, what are you doing? I tell her about stash. I go get my gun. I'm like, don't worry about it. And the girl I'm with is telling my mom, now females are, oh my God, there's guys at the house in the random house. I'm like, shut up, get the car. So she calls, we have a household. A detective answers the phone. It was the cops.
Crazy.
The cops tried to bait me into running up in there with some John Wayne type stuff. That's what he wanted. I know what he was doing now. He tried to get me into war mode so I would show up like Rambo, so that he knew he would catch me with a fire animal. My mom calls the phone. She's like, dude, turn around now. Turn around now. I said, what's going on, Mom? She's like, it's the cops. I said, what's the cops? She's like, there are cops. Your apartment has been raided. They got everybody laid on the ground. They're looking for you. They're waiting on you there. So the girl I'm with, you know, if I'm boosting car stereos, mine is gonna be outdo everything else. So I've got, I can't remember if it was the L7s, which ones it was, but it was the chicken the cow thing. It was the kickers, the square ones. I had those in it. So we go back to my mom's house. I whip the system out, get it out the truck. We pull up, and as soon as we pull up, they snatch me out of the truck. They lay me down. A large majority of my homeboys at the time hadn't turned 18. They were 16, 17. Two of my homeboys were walking towards the apartment as it was getting raided. They both had guns on. They saw it. They took off and ran. They stashed the gun in some leaves. A good Samaritan sees what they do, calls the cop down there and says, hey, two guys just put something in and they recover those two guns. They get me out. They handcuff me. They got all homeboys and I'm sitting on the curb. And it looks like something. Remember the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie where like the kids are underground in that warehouse? There was like all this stolen stuff everywhere. That's what it looked like. Like we had walls stacked up. And they gets questioning me, and I was raised by a condo, but I tell them I don't know nothing, man. I just pulled up. Where'd you get this from? I tell them I need a lawyer. You could just tell us where you got this from. We'll go away. You know, I know the game. I'm like, I need a lawyer. So they take a bunch of my homeboys at Tips Center. I'm the only one at the time that's over the age of 18. So they take me to the jail. They get to questioning me. And I'm more or less just like twiddling my fingers and looking at the ground. And eventually they're like, look, the guy that was staying with you, a guy by the name of Johnny Dixon, he got popped a couple months back. Yeah, we caught him breaking into cars. And he told us about everything that John got going on. And he has been reporting to us twice a week. We know you're the ringleader. We know you're the one that sends everybody out at night. Do you have anything to say? Go ahead and help yourself because we got him. He stays with you. I trusted this dude. You know what I mean? Little to it did I know that he believed and then go call these cops, tell them everything we had done the night before to get himself out. And so one thing I was big on was remove the serial numbers. Get something. Take the serial number off of it. Because I know that's a way to track that merchandise. We kill the serial numbers off everything. But now with all the serial numbers gone, not to mention, now I love the Mexican people inside the shop, some of the communities we were hitting at the time, these apartment complexes, was a lot of Spanish people. So they were buying a lot of the stuff off the streets. They didn't really have receipts for this. A lot of these people could call the cops because they didn't have good immigration status to report their stuff. So as they start digging, trying to figure out what's stolen, what's not stolen, as far as the audio equipment goes, it's so much of it, they can't find the owners of it. People are saying, yeah, that looks like mine, but you can't match the serial number to it. You can't have it. Long story short, we go to court and my lawyer says, look, there's nothing illegal about buying and reselling audio equipment. There's not. Well, who is he getting it from? That's irrelevant. It's not stolen. What about the guns? You didn't find any guns on my client. They're trying to hit me with the two guns that somebody clearly seen somebody else put in a ditch line. They spank everything. My lawyer is, good job. Is you ready to walk off? I'm like, no, it's not a good job. I want my stuff back. And he's like, excuse me? I said, I want all my stuff back. He's like, look, you're pushing it down. They're like, you know, like, where all that stuff come from. I said, no, I want all my stuff. They took it. I want it back. So he goes over and talks to them. They tell me to get in touch with the police department. I did touch the police department. I come up there with my mom, had with this big Ford, like, excursion fans. It's got like that little TV and VCR in it, you know what I'm talking about, up above.
I know what you're talking
The
about.
police department and load my van back. My mom was laying down after I beat my case and took back everything they stole.
You know, eventually, everything they stole. Eventually, you end up in prison. How many bids have you done, Jack?
So, like, prison bids, one. But, like, bids altogether, I have no clue. I started, I'd say my worst bid prior to going to prison was in Philly. In Philly, I did 11.5 to 23 on a robbery charge. And the way they sentence you up there is not like 5. It's like, maybe you get 5 to 10, 10 to 20. Yeah. They have drug court, they had gun court, they have certain courts set for certain things. And I had 19. I was on the run. and I went to Southwest Philadelphia, 68th Street, and I caught a robbery charge. And on that, I got an 11 and a half to 23. And from there, I was all the way in. I was numb to the jail thing. The jail, like, the reason I got caught so many times wasn't because I was stupid. It was because I didn't care. I didn't cover my face. So I went and did that. I came out after doing 11 after 23. And then at 24 years old, I caught the charge that would send me away for 10 years.
11 and a half to 23. You're talking about months?
Yes. Yeah.
And then you come home and you catch a charge and you do how much time?
On my prison bid.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was 10 years.
How long were you out before you ended up catching that bid?
52 days. I was out. I'd been in and out. Like, after that thing in Philly, I would get out and I would make it 60 days. I get locked up. I get a bond. That'd be the case. I had actually just got picked up. We went up to Philly. We left Virginia. We went up there to see some people, right? And we were making some moves. At the time, Xanax, one price in Virginia. Now we could go up there by thousands of them. You're talking like 50 cent a fill. These are bars. And we could bring them back down here. And then there's a large market for PCP up north. But down here, nobody can get those. So we got this plan, move up there, we get all this vote, we get all these hands, we get all this stuff, we're going to bring it back. Well, when I did that 11 after 23, I had stopped. I wasn't a Philly resident. I lived in Virginia, Richmond. I'm not coming to probation. I ain't got an address, so y'all tripping. And I told them that, well, actually, I didn't tell them that. I told my lawyer that. My lawyer was like, look, just get out. We're about getting out. If you tell them you don't have an address, they're going to hold you a little longer until you can provide an address. So I'm like, all right. So they released me. I'm there 3 days. I come back here, and no sooner than I get back here, I had felony warrants here. They locked me up. I got that behind me. So then I go through this cycle for like the next 2 years of where, and this time I've had a little boy, but I wasn't a danner. Like, I wasn't a danner. I was a street dude that etiquette. I'd stop in every now and then with a pair of shoes, or stop there. Hey, what's up, old man? Rub his head. His uncle, your daddy loves you. And I would dip out. But I went to Philly and 04, and we were up there making some moves, and we got into it one night at a place called either Fall Brickers or Fall Bushers. It was a full-on. And it got bad. Like, all these dudes come running out, they start smashing. At the time, we're at an excursion on like signing 23s. When 23s was a big deal. Like, they stood out. That was the biggest rub you could get. That they smashed one of the back windows out with the bat. Following day, we're headed back to Richmond, and my boy's like, I'm gonna stop this chick's house real quick, see her, and then hit with this thing with 95 and way back to Richmond. I'm like, all right, cool. So we're riding through South Philly, and a bike cop all up there. He's all messed up, popping bars. You're talking 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. He's already seeing sideways from the bars. I see the bike cop, and the bike cop is handling. Like, I mind you now, we've got you got that small window on the back, and then you got the big window. But people with steal cars, they would always break the smallest window to then reach and unlock the door. I see him. He's coming down the sidewalk. Like, you can see he's got a plan. His plan is to stop us. I see him. I tell my homeboy, hey, bust a left, bust a left, bust a left. My homeboy be messed up, watch the right when he does the bike cop. We got called by bike cops. Pulls up on us. Pops out, pulls his gun. He's thinking it's a stolen automobile. So they get us out, and I give them a fake name. I know that I've got this probation violation in Philly that I'm wanted for, but it's never popped up. And so a lot of times it's like that. It won't pop up until you go back to that state. So now that I'm in Philly and that they ask me my name, I give them a fake name. A lot of people said they ran the okey doke on me, but I heard him ready to go in this name I gave. And they come back, suspect in double homicide, detained. And no sooner than he said that, I said, nah, that's not my name. I gave him my real name. I gave him my PP number. Your PP number is the way they book you in Philly. I said, nah, my name is Jay. Well, your PP number. I start giving them my real information. Y'all ain't about to book me in as the guy I told you that's facing these crazy charges. So I sat in there for cuffs once, went in front of the judge. I hadn't been in no trouble in Philly. I'd been in a lot of trouble in Virginia. More in the Philly sector. I hadn't broken the laws in Philly in years. So the night before court, I'm sitting in the cell with my cellmate. And he's like, bro, they won't let you go tomorrow. I'm like, you're tripping, man. I got time over my head. Like, I balked on probation. They're not letting me go. And he was like, I didn't push you, man, and let you go to court. Sure enough, when I got locked up, I had a shirt on, and it had this big desert eagle all the way across the front of the shirt. And it said something like, I'm strapped, bitch, or something like that. My lawyer walks in the back, and he calls my name. They got me in my street clothes. I am in a probation violation for a robber.
Better turn that shirt inside out.
Yeah, but it was a well-made shirt. I tried that. Even when I turned it inside out, you could still see this big gray imprint of a gun, right? He's like, no. He's like, I'm going to go on the court road. And he did something where he represented me without me being in the court. Comes back, he says, all right, man, take care. Turns around and walks off. Doesn't tell me the outcome of anything. Just the English round up in the center. He turns around and walks off, and I'm like, what? There's another dude in there. He's like, man, you can go on, man. You can go on. I'm like, it was a matter of minutes before another guard walked up. He unlocked the door. So Williams stepped out. He's like, follow me. He hands me my bag, my belt and stuff in it. Needs to be down the hallway, needs to be down another hallway, opens the door. Moment, just like that, I step out. And in Philly, they got the criminal justice center. That's what they call it. And that's located in Center City. He opens the door just like that. I step out, it's broad daylight. It would be 52 days after that, U.S. Marshals picked me up in Philadelphia for a robbery that had caught. I got out. I told my cellmate that night. He said, what are you going to do when you get out? This is how stupid I was. This is how my mind worked. He says, if they let you out, what are you going to do? I had my response, no lie. I said, I'm going to get right back to what I do. I'm going to go get a strap, get a pack, and I'm going to get back and get money. And this dude was facing a lot of time. Like, he's probably still locked up. And he was about my age. He just shook his head. And sure enough, that was what I did. I got out, and I jumped right back to the game. Fast forward 55 days later, I walked into the House of Corrections, which was the place I left a little less than 2 months earlier, and they placed me back in the same exact cell with the guy I was in for. Just so happened that cell had become available again. I walked down and I walked the door, and he just looked at me and shook his head and was like, what you locked up for, Jay? And I was like, caught a robbery, malicious wound, and he just shook his head. But I made it 50-some days, man.
How old were you when you get that 10-piece?
24.
20. Ain't that a crazy, man? It seems like all of us are 24 when we get hit with big numbers, man. It don't last long, does it?
It don't. They held me. And then the system can be corrupt at times, too. Right? They charged me with robbery, malicious wounding by mob, because we had to look at it. It was me, my homeboy, and we had a third dude that was just posted up down there at the street light to make sure nobody else could, if somebody was coming, he was signal fools. He turned state evidence against us. So once he turned state evidence against us, now beside 3, it's a group of 2. So the malicious wounded by mob got dropped to malicious wounded. The robbery sticks. I kept my mouth closed the entire time because I've got a co-defendant. So in order for me to take some type of plea deal, I've got to A, give some type of a statement, or implicate him. So I kept my mouth closed. The first deal they came at me with, because mind you, I told you in 99, I caught that 11.5, 23, so malicious wounded and wobble. I am now back 5 years later in a different state, which is also a Commonwealth, with the malicious wounding and the robbery. They weren't playing when it came to the guideline. They came to me, they said, here's the plea, 27. I said, 27? Ain't no 27 popping rule. So they leave out, they come back, 17. 17, that's the best we got for me. I said, man, I'm not pleading. Y'all keep coming to me with like plea bargains. I'm not pleading. I didn't do anything. What are you going to fight it? You going to fight it? Yeah, I'm going to fight it. I'm telling you not guilty. So I ended up, I went to court. I fought it. I lost miserably. They gave me 20 for the malicious wounded, with 20 suspended, 20 for the robbery, with 10 suspended, which left me with 10 to do. And just like that, I was off. But right through, here's my point to say they're crooked. They have what's known as a speedy trial process. You know all about that. They got a certain amount of time to get me in front of a judge, be tried and whatnot. And if they do not do that in that amount of time, I can beat the case just on a speedy trial violation. I gone up bond time, bond here, 100,000, 100,000. They were not coming down on my arm because they did not want me released. I have 3 days. I know this name. 3 days. If I had sat in jail 3 more days, I would have beat the entire case on a technicality. I would have beat it on a violation of speedy trial. My lawyer comes and gets me, and it's after time the lawyers come, and they call me for a special visit. And I go sit down, and I'm looking at him, I'm like, what's up? He's like, got your arm reduction. You got to be an arm reduction. I had to go close to a arm reduction. What's the bond? 35,000. You get 3,500. Can I? Yes. Now, at this point, I've been in jail. I think they had like 9 months to get me through this process. I've been in jail for 8 months and some change coming up right on the 9-month mark. I call my people, hey, I need $3,500 rolled away. They come and bond me out. I stay out a little bit. Court's coming. At this point, I think I still got like another couple months before I go to court. I start bouncing at the strip club. All that's going good. I'm stacking money. And I'm going to be honest, as I was bouncing, I was reevaluating my life. I started to like talk to God. I was like, if you get me out of this, I'm done. I'll be whoever it is I'm supposed to be. We do that at times. We turn to God when we, have failed. And the night before I went to trial, all the girls came up. You're going to be all right. You got this stripper song. You're going to be all right. Don't worry about it. You're good. And I know in my heart, I can feel it. I'm not good. My mom's asking me what I want for Christmas. This is right before Christmas. I was like, Mom, I'm not going to be here for Christmas. Court day rolls around. I get trashed tonight. Super trashed. The girl that I'm with, she's trying to wake me up. I'm about 45 minutes late to court already. I'm just like, I don't even care. She pours water on me, I'll wake up. She runs out, starts the car. She's like, get dressed. Cool, got to go to court. All right. I go in the house. I sit on the couch. I throw my chain on. I put these black jeans on, these black Timbs, black white feeder, black fitted. And I come out and I get in the car and smoke the blunt and get to court out. She's like, all right, throw your stuff on. I'm like, this is my stuff. She's like, you have trial. You're intoxicated. You reek of smoke. And you're going in there in a white feeder with a gold chain on? Young and dumb. Since Bob was late to court, as soon as I come in, the first thing they did was revoke my mom because I was late. Take him to custody and take me in the back. They brought us in, and when me and my court attendant were sitting in the back, I tried my best. I said, we're going to prison. 100%. We were both picked out with your mind up. There was somebody out there that night that put us at the scene of a crime. DNA was pulled from a cigarette butt not far from the body. That puts us at the scene of the crime. Me and him both done this. This is the stuff that my lawyer is telling me while we're preparing for trial. I said, we're done. What's going to happen is I love you. Somebody's got to be there for the kids. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to tell these people I did everything. And you're going to go home. Promise me you'll look after my son. He put his head down and he sat there for a minute on the bench next to me. And he raised his hand up and he looked at me. He still loved me. He said, we did this together. We can go to prison together too. I can't let you do it. We walked in there. You found us guilty. Then you returned for your sentencing. Came back for sentencing. They came back. They gave me 10 years. They gave him 8 years. He was also on my first robbery case, but he was a juvenile at the time. I was 19. He was 17. We go in for a reduction on time, like a sentence reduction. Sent my people to this guy that got robbed people's house and dropped off money. $7,000. This money's supposed to get y'all to come in and speak good on my own boy's behalf and my behalf to try to get us a sentence reduction. What a $7,000 if I can get 4 years knocked off. That's nothing. They come in, the dude comes in, he speaks good on my old boy, and he looks at the judge and he looks at me and he points at me and he says, not only should he not be doing 10 years, he should not be getting out any sooner. The judge granted my homeboy the sentence reduction, knocked his down to 6, left mine at 10. Case closed, off to prison we go.
You go to prison, but eventually, man, you end up getting out of prison. You changed your life. What's your life like now, man?
My life is a tree. It's I grew up, Chad. I died, and please, I gotta reiterate this again. Do not listen to this and think that I glorified anything tonight. I just told the facts. I 100% told the truth. I walked y'all down an average day in my life, what my life had become. I found myself when I was in prison. I think one of my biggest fears in life coming up was just being born. Just being that guy you seen that got up and went to work every day. That wasn't exciting. What was exciting to me was everything that I was doing. But as I got older and the years started to pass and my hair started to fall out, I became bald, beard started to change colors, facial features started to change. My thoughts, my ideas, my wants, everything started to change. And I remember when it changed. I was sitting in my cell and I was looking out the window and I seen these deer in this field through 3 fences, 3 layers of razor wire, big spotlights on the yard. And I remember looking at these deer in this field thinking, these wild animals have more freedom than I do. This is crazy. And I was watching the perimeter vehicle go around. You know, they have vehicles that drive around the prison 24 hours a day, nonstop. Sometimes they pass each other in opposite direction. And I was counting in between how long it was before that truck circled back. In my mind, I'm trying to plot a way to get out, even though it wasn't going to happen. And in that moment, I felt disgusted. I just felt sick, felt disgusted. Something changed. I got up, I went to the sink, I washed my face, I took my little scratched up dingy mirror, my little flexible mirror. I took a long hard look at myself, and I put the mirror back up, lights out, and I sat on my knees in front of me, and I just thought about life. I said, this ain't it. From there, I started cutting guys off that I was getting into trouble with in there. I started really focusing on what was going to happen when I got out. I met my wife. She was my girl at the time, 9 months before I got out. And I told her what I planned to do. I told the counselor it was the same thing. They laughed at. I said, I'm going to get out. I'm going to get my license back. I'm going to start a construction company. I'm going to go on to be successful. I'm going to go on to be a good man. And they said the good man part, we can see that, but not everybody's going to be successful. Just have realistic dreams. I said, no, I'm going to be bigger than just realistic dreams. I'm going to do it. And I did, Chad. Everything I set my mind to. Me and my wife had this talk the other day, and we had family in this week. Well, we had friends in this weekend, and they were saying the same thing. It's amazing sometimes when I stop and I look at what I've accomplished. Not boasting, not bragging, just simply stating the truth. And it all goes back to me being that 13, 14-year-old boy, chasing down them cars, trying to make this move, trying to make that move. It all goes back to that hustler's mentality, that not taking no for an answer, that being able to sell water to a fish. Life is good. I have my son. As soon as I got out, I got custody of my first son. First house in the projects, weren't there long, upgraded. Like that house, it was nice, but then we upgraded. And now we just upgraded again. And I live in a house that's nicer than any house I've ever been to. That's my own. That's my life. And it's a life I created without going to college, without having a rich family. This is the results of what happens when you truly apply yourself. You apply yourself for a positive manner. I try to help others. I try to teach others by reaching others and let them know that you'll go as far as you believe you can go. If you've set a limit for yourself and what you can do in life, well, that's your goal. That's your max. I have no limits. I do not think I've reached the pinnacle of my career. I don't think that I've reached the top of what it is I seek to do. I have so much more going on in my mind that it just overloads at times. And it feels amazing to have my 5-year-old son walk up or look at me and say, thank you, Daddy. And I say, thank you for what? And he says, for this amazing life you gave, for this beautiful house, for my PlayStation 5 and my dog. Thank you. Those were words I never said to my father. Those are words that there's no greater feeling in the world to know that I did it. And I don't have these years now, Chad. The cops knock on the door. I can open the door and be like, hey, man, it's kind of cold out there. Yo, let's step in and talk about this. Because there's nothing illegal going on in my house.
That's what's up.
I break no laws. I'm a good guy. I broke the cycle, and it feels fucking amazing.
Look, man, that's what it's about, man. I mean, you got a hell of a story, and, you know, I definitely appreciate you coming on and sharing your story, your experiences, and, you know, you were one of the first dudes, bro, to shout me out. You were the first dude, and then 1090 did a few months later. You two dudes are the two dudes that really helped me, you know what I mean, when I first got started. You know, you are a good dude, bro. I talked to you off camera. I've talked to you on the phone, and I reached out to you when I needed some help with a situation where I was like, yo, bro, just ask these people to leave me alone, man, because I'm not bothering them. You know, let them do them, let me do me, and we'll be good. And you know what, man? Before I actually talked to you, I would see some of your videos, and I wasn't really into the prison content. I lived that life for 18 years. But when I talked to you as a man and as a person, I remember telling my wife, like, that dude's a good dude, man. Like, I seen a different person than the dude on the videos, right? The little clips I would catch. And I was like, man, dude's a good dude. You went out of your way to help me, and you didn't have to. So I appreciate you, man. And I think that your message is, look, man, you know, you're a real father, a real man, a real leader. You changed your life. And there's plenty of dudes. Usually I ask people, hey, man, give a message. But you already gave it. You already gave it. And you lead by example, man. You know, you took something and turned it into something, man. And you know what? Ain't nothing wrong with making a dollar if you're making a difference. Your hustle's just different. So, man, I appreciate you, and I appreciate what you do on your channel. And before we go, man, tell the people where to find you, brother.
You already know y'all can find me on YouTube and Jay Williams Let's Live Life. You got the second channel with Jay Williams Up Living Life. Instagram with Jay Let's Live Life. Email jayletsLiveLife@gmail.com. And aside from that, you'll see me everywhere. Stay tuned.
Listen, man, again, I appreciate you, and I appreciate you coming on, man. For those of the people that don't know you, man, good dude, good message, helps people, helps the community. Blood on the Razor Wire TV, man, with respect. Until tomorrow, we're out.